introduction and side conversations out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to show this PowerPoint to everyone. Oh, wait, that was the wrong thing. Sorry. Wrong screen there. What happened? Okay. Try this again. There we go. Okay. All right, by show of nodding heads, can everyone see the PowerPoint now? Excellent, perfect. All right, so we're just gonna get right into this. Let me just minimize that screen a little bit. Okay, so like I said, obviously the main point of what we're gonna be talking about this evening is our 2020 Fall Council Recruitment Plan. This council recruitment plan was developed by the field staff at the council office along with some members of our council-wide membership team, which compromises some people on our council board as well as district membership chairs from around the different districts. So this is both a volunteer and paid staff effort to develop this plan. This plan covers how our units can get back to meeting, whether it be virtual or in person or a hybrid of both. It will also give out resources for meeting along with recruitment ideas and how the council wants to structure our recruitment that we hope our units will participate in, and also hopefully give all of our units some idea on how they can do some of their own unit level recruiting just for themselves. So of course, we always know that the first step to actually be able to recruit is for our units to be able to meet. And so back to meeting is obviously very important for all of our units. I know that several units in Wateree have already started resuming meeting, whether again it's in person in a socially distant, acceptable fashion, or virtually, continuing to use Zoom or other methods like Zoom, such as Google Hangout, Facebook Live, other things like that, to continue on the scouting program. A couple of weeks ago, I was reaching out to a couple of units just to figure out, who had been meeting over the summer, what those meetings were looking like, how they were going. And I was, one, surprised to hear, but also happy to hear that for the units that weren't meeting over the summer, which is pretty typical for all units, we typically take a break between June and July for family vacations, summer, things like that. But units that hadn't been meeting since around April, like when we first stopped meeting because of COVID, but the main reason I was hearing that people weren't meeting was just because all of their units, all of their dens had already kind of completed all of their requirements to advance to the next rank. And so, there was nothing really to be meeting about except for, having, some fun weekend activities or just, general fun days or extra learning. Definitely no need to kind of keep beating the hammer on something that wasn't super necessary. So I was happy to hear that the main reason people weren't meeting was because they had already completed all requirements. So that was, of course, very good to hear. But now as we get back into the fall, of course, we're hoping to be hosting new scouting families. And of course, that means new scouts, which means the renewal of our scouting year to get some requirements done and advancing through the different ranks and Cub Scouts. So first thing you always have to do is for those who haven't been meeting since March or April, definitely got to make sure you got to figure out the best delivery method for, for, virtual meetings, whether it's Zoom, whether again it's Facebook Live or another virtual platform, taking into account the cost of different platforms where there are free accounts, but also they may have limitations to how many people can be on at one time, or if you have the budget, potentially paying for paying to be able to have more people on at one time, more longer meetings, et cetera, et cetera. But once you kind of have a good platform picked out that works well for both your leaders and your families, of course, you got to have your meetings prepared. We do have resources that we'll talk about a little bit later on in this PowerPoint on kind of a sample meeting plan for all dens and all age groups for Cub Scouts. And we'll also kind of discuss a little bit of a council-wide den meeting, which we are currently developing as well. But do make sure that you're, of course, still following your protection guidelines. There should be 2 leaders on every Zoom call, no matter what. I know that with Zoom, it's a little bit different because we're not always in person. And typically at the Cub level, what I typically see is that, parents are usually in the background or in the same room or even on the same screen, sitting right next to each other. but there do need to be at least 2 adults per every meeting for the entire meeting, just to keep in line with youth protection policies. Also keep in mind that meetings like this can be recorded because there aren't any children or youth identified by their Zoom screen. However, you cannot record any meeting in which youth are present and identifiable by the name in their corner, the corner of the Zoom screen, so please keep that in mind. Definitely kind of like the main things we want to make sure we're hitting on is that, like, not only are we prepared to host the meeting, but we want the audience to be prepared for what the unit is like or what the meeting is going to cover. It can be a little bit harder to convey messages over a Zoom platform just because of technological issues with computers freezing, things like that. But just be prepared. Like there may be some kinks to getting this right, but it is a good way for our units to meet when we can't meet in person, or if we have families who are still not ready to meet in person just because of all the COVID issues we're having.
Can I interrupt real quick? This is Julie with a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned that we could not record them if the child's name was in the corner. What if we told them how to change their name so they were named something like, Badger and Fox or whatever, if they have name, so it doesn't have their identifiable name. So in other words, if we had 4 scouts that showed up, but one misses it and we want to record it for that one scout.
I'm not 100% sure on kind of like how those rules look. Obviously, like, they are a little bit more still on the new side just because, we're still relatively new to the whole Zoom process. However, in that particular sense, I would more urge on the side of, just like, taking notes down on kind of what was covered during the meeting, like what activities were covered, things like that, just like whether it's in like a quick, like bullet point list or just like a quick PowerPoint, things like that. I think would be kind of just like a better way just to like avoid any potential issue. But I will definitely, I will look into just kind of exactly what, like the word for word says on that issue, and I can get back to you at a later date with some of that information.
All right.
Also, quick note, now that Julie's asked a question, also feel free, I do want to have a Q&A once we're kind of like done discussing with the PowerPoint. Want to make sure that everyone's questions are answered. This is a very confusing time for all of us. But also feel free to utilize the chat function during our Zoom meeting. That way we can have all the questions listed just in case
you need me
you want to ask something, or it might be something that actually gets covered.
Oh yeah, I'm on a Zoom meeting. But I'm good, thank you.
That gets covered a little bit later on in the meeting. But also, if anything doesn't get covered, it's a great way for me to see all the questions we have before talking over one another. So definitely feel free to utilize that function. But then finally, it gets back to getting back to meeting. It is different, but definitely we can still make like scouting come to life. It can still be an exciting time. We can still have great meetings, even if it's in a virtual setting. It's not like as easy to interact through a computer screen or your phone, your iPad, what have you. But we still can make this exciting, and we still can convey that the scouting movement is alive and well. It just looks a little bit different how we're experiencing it. So definitely make sure that like your leaders are upbeat, that you're upbeat, that you're getting the kids excited. It's not just another half hour, 45 minutes of just staring at the computer screen, like going through requirements, and like do what you can to really make your meeting fun. These are some of the resources I was talking about earlier. Like I said, this PowerPoint will be sent out tomorrow morning, so you can obviously go through all these links and kind of figure out like what works best for you. Some of these will lead you to our council iHub, where we have a lot of these resources. Others will lead you to the Scouting National website, and of course, we do have the SCDHEC website down there at the bottom with their guidelines related to COVID and meeting in person and how that should look and things like that. This right here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so everyone can actually see it. But this is kind of a sample recruitment, or not recruitment plan, a sample den meeting plan. As you can see, it covers all dens, all ranks, and it goes from right about now, kind of end of September when our main recruitment phase is, all the way to the end of February. And so you can see it encompasses a very large amount of time, plenty of adventures and ideas of like how to structure a meeting. And what the schedule actually is this is kind of the current schedule for our council den meeting. And what the council den meeting is, it's an idea we had at the council level to provide, and it's a very similar way to our Zoom to First Class event, which for our troop leaders will probably remember. But it's a way for families to still stay involved with scouting, to still be, like having, scouting done for them in a den meeting setting without the unit itself having to go back to meet. We do know that there are issues related to technology, finances, things like that may prevent a unit from being able to have a good, clear-cut virtual meeting. But we do want to make sure that all of our families do still have the opportunity to advance in scouting, even if their unit is unable to meet for whatever reason. One thing I do want to stress is that this is a temporary measure. This is not something that we're going to have forever, because we do want to emphasize that we want our units to get back to meeting as soon as possible, whether it be in person in a safe manner or virtually or in a hybrid method. But this is a way to kind of just like provide a little bit of cushion to our units so that they're able to, kind of rely on the council a little bit to lead some of these den meetings before they're able to actually get their meetings started again. And so again, we are still looking for a couple of volunteers to lead some of these den meetings. We don't want to be relying on the same 4, 5, 6 people to be leading all these different dens throughout the next couple of months. So if you're interested, definitely get in touch with me on if you're ready to volunteer, or if you have any ideas for kind of like improving the system, improving how this would work, please let me know. But moving on, now that we're kind of through the getting back to meeting portion, we do definitely want to spend a lot of time, well, not a lot of time, but enough time to discuss recruitment for this fall and how that's going to look. Obviously, as I'm sure everyone can guess, we are going to be recruiting in a little bit of a different way than we have in the past. It's very likely we're not going to be able to have class-to-class talks, go into schools and pass out flyers and things like that. We're going to be relying more and more on virtual and virtual methods of recruitment and recruitments that take place not in schools, but at our chartered organizations, local business centers, parks, things like that, somewhere that's probably not on school grounds. But we have gone through and we have come up with a couple of different ideas that we've taken from a couple of different areas, such as national webinars and what other councils are doing and sharing with each other. So one thing I do want to stress before getting into this slide in particular, you will see a couple things on here that are highlighted in blue. However, these blue highlighted words do not lead to links or anything, but everything that is highlighted in blue here is linked further on or somewhere else in our presentation. So while there aren't links here, there are links to all these resources later on in PowerPoint. But unit recruitment, especially this year, it's going to come down to the units to actually do recruitment themselves. It's not going to be as much as a district-wide recruitment effort like in years past. Of course, the district committee, myself, are still here to support and help in whatever way we can. But kind of, really this year, just because it's going to be so much of word of mouth and, talking to people in your neighborhood, your places of work, fellow parents and schools, it is definitely going to be much more at the unit level to really, try and, grow your pack and grow your unit, reaching out to people. And so with that, a couple of things we've talked about before, really make sure that your Be a Scout pin is updated with the most up-to-date information on the best person to contact, when your unit meets, where they meet, what night and from what time, anything particularly special about your unit that sets you apart from some of the other units in the area, as well as any links to a unit website you have, a unit Facebook page, things like that. Definitely make sure that those are all updated, and also that you are able to accept applications through Be a Scout if we're unable to have paper applications or take applications in person. A couple other ideas that you can have, using Facebook and social media to advertise and promote your events, and by promoting them even further by geofencing, which we'll get into a little bit later. Just kind of like a quick summary of geofencing. Essentially, you pay just a couple of dollars and you can actually pick who you can target your ads and events for. So, for the council-wide, we're considering geofencing our district-wide events. So we want to be reaching out to, moms and dads of kids who are, between the ages of kindergarten and 5th grade, in a particular geographical area. And Facebook will take your event and make sure that it's kind of promoted on the sides of people's Facebook news feeds, with the dates and times and all that good stuff for recruitment events. So just it's an extra way to recruit and make sure you're getting in front of a larger audience. Another possible idea is just, like at Recharter, we always lose a couple of scouts is because they're either no longer meeting with the unit or they just lost interest in the program. But maybe see that like after COVID, like everyone being bored of being shut in their house for so long, maybe some of those families and some of those kids are looking for an extra way to get involved in the community, have something else going on. So if you still have record of the people who used to be on your roster but didn't recharter with your unit, maybe consider reaching out to them and seeing if you can get them back involved in the program. Numbers 4 and 5, or excuse me, numbers 5 and 6 here are, of course, kind of like what we're really discussing here. Utilizing the materials that we have at the council office between yard signs, posters, flyers, stickers, things like that, that we have at the council office, but also your unit can order yourselves if you have the budget for it. Like, obviously, feel free to order anything you can off the BSA Brand and Marketing Center, which, again, we'll get to a little bit later. And then please, please work with the district membership committee that's being headed up by Scotty Grigsby and Tomo Black this year. They've had some really good ideas and some really good efforts in recruiting so far, and they can definitely use the help. It's not a one-man show by any means, and the more support we have to cover the district as a whole, the more likely we are to have a successful recruiting season, even in the midst of a lot of hardship between COVID-19, the national lawsuit, things like that. And so definitely just be up to date on the resources available to you, and also know that some of the best resources are the people that you work with in your unit and in your district. So definitely keep that in mind. So like I said, this is Be a Scout is super important, just because it's probably going to be the best and easiest way to actually take up applications. You can update your PIN to show where your unit is meeting, who the adults are, when you're meeting, things like that. But also it can generate a personal URL and QR code to get to your unit's page. So it's easier for you to put on flyers, put on posters that you're putting up around town, and so that people are very quickly and easily able to get to your Be a Scout page in order to sign up as quickly as possible. So definitely want to make sure that we have the best information up there and that all of our units are utilizing Be a Scout to the best of their ability, because we already have a great resource like Be a Scout. There's no reason to have to reinvent the wheel or find a different way of taking online applications when we already have a great platform to use. But this link here right at the bottom will take you to the Be a Scout site for the Wateree district. It won't take you to a specific unit, but it will take you to the Wateree district pins. So definitely check up on those to make sure they're all updated and that you have all the best information there for you. But now kind of get into actual, recruitment plans. Definitely, we have to be thinking outside the box here for how recruitment is going to look. It's not going to be the typical myself and district volunteers going to schools, talking classroom to classroom or at an assembly, and then the following night having a scout night at the school in the gym or the cafeteria. We're able to talk with parents and show off, some unit posters and, with showing all the great things that our units do. It's not going to be like that, but we still can have similar events at, different community-wide events. The city of Camden, Elgin, Lugoff, I know are very community-centric. They have plenty of, parades and events going on throughout the fall and throughout the year that are great ways for our units to, set up tents, march in the parades in uniform, to, show that scouting is alive and well in the community. And we're always looking for more members to take part in such a great program that all of us know and love. So definitely, be on the lookout for local opportunities, local events that you can potentially either volunteer for, participate in, set up a booth, set up a tent or a table, showing off what's great about your unit, and being able to get in front of parents and families to really push scouting and push why your unit is so great, and how we can get things done. PAC 303, I know they already did a recruitment event themselves just last week, which went not surprisingly well, but it went well for the circumstances we're in. So I'm hoping that we can get some good ideas from PAC 303 on kind of what went well, how they planned it, anything that they would change in the future. Because they recruited a decent amount of kids and adults, and so if we can do that, district wide, when school gets back in session, things like that, there's no reason why we can't have as good a recruitment season as we've had in the past. Again, the only thing that's different is just the way that we're recruiting. Nothing is different about the program, nothing is different about what we're doing. It's just a slightly different method, for getting the same kids and the same opportunities to join scouting, because we all know it's a great program for kids of all ages. So definitely be on the lookout for local community events and ways for you to participate there. But getting into the district level recruitment stuff, like once we kind of get past unit recruiting, we are planning to have virtual roundups later on in September on Monday the 21st, Tuesday the 22nd, and Wednesday the 23rd. And what these are going to be Zoom meetings that are set up by our district membership team that will cover different geographic areas every night for the district. So one night we'll cover Lugoff Elgin, one night we'll cover Camden, one night we'll cover Fairfield, or again, some schedule in that way so that every unit from those areas gets ample opportunity to get in front of parents, give a little spiel about why their unit's so great and why they should join, talk about some unit information, again, where you meet, when you meet, all the basic stuff, plus a little bit of spice added in there to like really sell your unit and make it pop. But we do want all of our units to be represented on any night that they can, whether it's only one night or all 3 nights. We do want to make sure every unit has as much opportunity as they want to get in front of prospective parents. So again, this will be something that we set up at the district level. We'll figure out the time that works best in the area or the schools that we're going to cover per night, because we don't want to have, the entirety of the district on every night, just because that does have potential issue to potentially have too many people at once and might actually scare off a couple different families. So we do want to plan. We do want input from our units on how we think those virtual roundups will best be done. These are the kinds of things that we'll be promoting, through Peach Jar, on the flyers we send out to schools, on the posters we put up around town. I know that Scotty's already been thinking about different ways to get these flyers organized and promoted. And so this will be kind of where we really utilize those roundups. But the really thing that I want to make sure is that these virtual roundups, should not take any longer than a typical school recruitment night, and typically those last about an hour. And so these roundups should not last any longer than an hour either. And if anything, they should probably last a little bit less time, just because we don't have to wait for people to necessarily come in and everything. We will be available for an hour, I imagine. But this is not, a time for long-winded, spiels and speeches about all the great aspects of scouting. We do want to be respectful of people's time. And also we want to make sure that we're not, making them drink through a fire hose or all this information we're giving them. We want to be effective, but we do want to make sure that it's quick and easy for someone to understand about a potential new program that they may have never heard about before. So again, this is something that we're developing at the district level, but we do want our units to participate. And so we will be giving out more information as they come up. But a typical structure for one of these might be, just a quick introduction to all the parents who come in, a little bit of information about scouting in general. We'll get into some actual units either having a PowerPoint slide or a quick 60 seconds to talk about their unit, the basic information, and then we'll mention Be a Scout and how they can go and actually sign up for your unit. And then after that, we adjourn. So it's a nice quick meeting, but definitely want to make sure that it's long enough for all of our units to have adequate time to sell themselves, as well as answer any questions that parents may have before filling out the application and paying the fees. So again, just going through, some of the promos, we'll still be doing kind of a lot of very similar stuff that we've done in the past. We'll be, posting on social media. We'll be asking schools and school PTAs to be posting on their social media as well. We'll be using posters and flyers and yard signs to be advertising all of this. We'll ask schools and local businesses to, advertise on their electric screens in their kind of the drive-ins and their school bus lines. And then we're also trying to get some electronic school talks handled where we do a quick recording or utilize some recordings from the council and from national to send out to schools to show on their morning talk shows the week of and the week prior to these virtual roundups. And then again, it's using Peach Jar to get those flyers in front of parents, because even though Peach Jar has been issued in the past of parents not necessarily opening up Peach Jar or opening up the flyers that are sent out through Peach Jar, I have a feeling that this year, just because there's so much still confusion about schools and what's virtual, what's going to be in person, how long we're going to be in person, I have a feeling that Peach Jar will be much more effective this year compared to last year. So hopefully I'm not proved wrong in that bet. And again, this is just kind of a quick sample meeting, just 5 quick points super easy, super simple. No need to overcomplicate it. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're good to go. And after our virtual sign-up nights, we do want to still have an in-person recruitment available for just in case anyone's either not comfortable with Zoom or can't make our Zoom meetings. And so these drive-up sign-up nights will be September 24th, again at 6:30 or around that time. And what we're looking to do here is to get an actual school parking lot, you know, like one of their bus lines, and kind of have the same almost format as a virtual roundup meeting. However, this one will obviously be in person. So almost kind of thinking of a carpool line where, you know, there's two people at the front entrance, you know, like greeting people, giving them some information about scouting in general and be a scout and things like that. And then for whatever units recruit from that particular school or that particular area, you know, they'll be able to come out, you know, set up a tent, set up a booth, set up a table, you know, show off like, you know, some like their scout skills, some, you know, like have like a slideshow going of their unit, and have parents literally drive by each tent, get some information about these units, and then you know, find a parking spot, either fill an application right then and there, go online to be a scout and fill an application there. Excuse me again. Or just, you know, kind of like have time to ask questions of, you know, like one of the district level volunteers or myself or another council level volunteer if I'm there. Just like, you know, like answer any quick questions about fees or anything like that. And then bada bing, bada boom, we can collect applications so they can go on their merry way without ever having to leave the comfort of their car. So again, kind of like a typical sign-up night, except again, it's not in the school, just in their parking lot. People stay in their cars. But it's kind of the same deal. The same promotional efforts that we use for the virtual nights will be used for the sign-up night as well. It is a way for us to use paper applications and take applications right then and there that we can have in our hands rather than having to go to Be a Scout to approve these applications. And it might just be a way that's more comfortable for people to actually make a sign up in person rather than handling everything online. That's because it can be potentially a little bit more confusing if it's done through Zoom rather than in person. So we do want to make sure that we're utilizing both in the same way that our units are utilizing both meeting in person and virtually in a hybrid method. We want to have a hybrid method available for recruitment as well. So we have all these plans, we have all these ideas, but obviously, you know, we need to have actual steps to making these work. And so really this slide right here is a great way to summarize this entire PowerPoint, where first, your unit has to be meeting in order to actually have recruitments. We don't want to recruit scouts to a unit that isn't able to meet for whatever reason. We want to make sure that Be a Scout is updated because Be a Scout will be our most helpful tool in getting in front of parents and, you know, getting them signed up for scouting, answering any questions about units meeting. We want to schedule and promote unit level recruitments like Pack 303 had last week, whether it's at an event or just, you know, something that you're doing yourself at your church, your charter organization. Or if it's, you know, like a ice cream social on the weekend, or, you know, something that is, you know, socially distant acceptable, but is a way for your units to, like, you know, like meet people from the community and get them involved and, like, you know, show them what scouting is all about. Then, of course, you want all of our units to participate in at least one night of the virtual nights that we'll have September 21st, 22nd, or 23rd. If you want to participate in all three, we can definitely make that happen because Wateree, as we all know, is a relatively small district. There's not a whole lot of units in Wateree, so we'll probably be pulling from a lot of the same schools. But definitely be sure that, you know, you are represented as often as your unit wants to be. And then, of course, plan to have a representative or two at one of our drive-up sign-up locations, because I'm sure we'll definitely have multiple for Wateree since we do cover a large area in Kershaw County. And then finally, like I said before, your biggest resource is always the people who you work alongside with, whether it's people at your unit, the people that on the district committee, or just, you know, like district leadership, or myself. You know, I'm, of course, my number one job while as a DE is to support my units in any way that I can. So I'm here to answer your questions, alleviate concerns, help you strategize these different meetings, things like that. But definitely feel free to, you know, lean on one another, utilize each other's experience. You know, what went well for one unit may not necessarily go well for another unit, but at least we have those ideas and we can talk with one another to figure out the best strategies for all of our units to succeed and all of our units to be able to have a successful recruitment season. These are the main resources that you're going to want to utilize. Of course, our website right there at the top, which always has good links to good information. Secondly, our hub, which has the full council recruitment plan. This PowerPoint is kind of a bare bones version of our council recruitment plan, but the one online on the hub goes into much more detail lot more resources listed, and kind of like a very clear step-by-step process of how all of these roundups and recruitments will work. And then finally, the Scouting Wire Marketing and Membership Hub, which has access to a bunch of marketing materials, whether it's stickers, posters, flyers, yard signs, recruitment videos ranging from like 10 seconds to 5 minutes long. They have videos of all lengths, lots of diversity, like both for family units, all boy units, all girl units, anything like that. They have great resources there. And again, just a friendly reminder, I will be sending out this PowerPoint tomorrow, along with links in the body of the email to all these resources, along with the recording of this Zoom meeting, to give everyone as much resources as possible right at their fingertips. It's easy to get to. So definitely utilize all the resources at hand, whether it's online or your fellow scouters. There's a lot of good information in our committee, just based on scouting experience and scouting know-how. So definitely rely on one another, rely on these resources, and any other ideas that you have, either share those with your unit, share those with the district. At this point, there is no such thing as a bad idea. And so definitely feel free to share anything that you think can make our district having more successful recruiting season, and also your unit having more successful recruiting, because we want all of our units to grow. But that is the end of the PowerPoint. And so I'm sure that you guys are all tired of hearing me talk, since I've been talking for the last half hour. So now I actually want to, hopefully I'm not putting anyone on the spot here, but for anyone from PAC 303 who wants to either talk for just a couple minutes, I see that Art and June are both here with us, and the Putnams as well. Do you guys just want to share any bits of information on how your recruitment event went last week? I know you guys kind of like did things yourself, but any ideas on what went well, what could potentially be improved for other units as we kind of start planning our other unit level recruitments?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit. Hi, everybody. So we had our sign-up night. We just did it at our church out in the parking lot. We're not able to get inside of our church right now, but also being outside allows us to spread out a lot more. We set up some booths with some canopies, and we had some activities for the kids to do. And then we had a table with information about our PAC and what we plan to do this year, and some applications for everybody that came in, and just basically had a good time, tried to social distance and wear masks, but still interact a little bit and do Cub Scouting, because that's what people want right now. It's hard with the Zoom thing, I've noticed, to get that personal connection. And so even if you're in a parking lot and you're separated and you're wearing masks, you still get to see people, and it just gives you that little bit more of personal connection than what you would get just from online sources. So I really would recommend trying to set up something. Doesn't have to be exactly what we did, but we had Nerf guns that the kids could shoot at a target. We had armpit fudge that they could make, and then we had a bead craft that they could make. So there's 3 different things that they could do. We also made this part of our summer events. So any scouts that came that were already part of our PAC, they were able to come and participate in those activities as well, and that counted as a summer activity for them for the month of August, and so that'll help work towards their summertime pin. Another thing that we did is 2 weeks prior to our event, we put up plastic signs outside of our church and down the main street right before you turn off to our church. So those were posted 2 weeks in advance with all the information for the sign-up night, the time and place and whatnot. So hopefully people driving back and forth from work and whatnot saw it multiple times before the actual event. And so I think that was good also for the exposure. Another thing that we did is one of our parents in our PAC, they took the initiative to write up some articles and collect some pictures to send out to the local newspapers. And we actually got featured in 2 different newspapers. We had pictures of our crossover ceremony that we had done outside the previous month, and they talked about how scouting is still alive and well even during the pandemic, and people are still meeting together and doing scouting activities. It's just looking a little different these days, but I think that was really great exposure for our PAC. And I think that going forward, if people are thinking about scouts, they might think back and say, oh, I remember seeing this pack in the newspaper, you know. So I think it was just it was really good for our pack to be in the newspapers, the local ones. So but yeah, I think that's it. You have any
June, that is
questions
some
for me?
excellent information, and definitely so glad to hear that you guys were able to get some media exposure. I mean, you'll be able to utilize that for months, if not almost like, for another year.
Yeah.
Definitely the more that we can promote scouting, kind of like, get it in front of the community, whether it's, like pictures in like, the local bulletin, the local newspaper, or just, like recordings of the event, like sent out afterwards, like scouting is alive and well, as all of us well know. And as June just said, but people may not necessarily know about that just because so much is closed down through the pandemic. And, like there's rumors going around, because we're facing bankruptcy that, like the BSA is all going downhill and like, it's all shutting down completely, which is completely not true. All those are just false rumors. I want to clarify that for everybody here. We're still alive and well, and we're still thriving, honestly. But we do need to, there is that public perception that, like, because we are facing some struggles that, like maybe like scouting isn't, like at its best place right now, but there's nothing really saying that that's the case, because we're able to meet virtually. We're able to meet in person in a socially distant, acceptable fashion with wearing masks and all that. So scouting movement is still very alive. It's still thriving. It's still going very well. All of us are still involved and happy to be involved, or at least I hope everyone here is happy to be involved in scouting. But yeah, definitely the most that we can get out of these recruitment events, even if we don't necessarily get kids signed up that night, if we can at least get exposure and get our units promoted throughout the communities, we can make it easier to recruit in the future when people are more willing to go out and kind of explore and take a couple new opportunities to get involved in their local community. So June, thanks for all that great information. I think it definitely gives a good sense of kind of the effort that needs to go into a unit level recruitment event, as well as how successful it can be with the right preparation. So definitely great job, you guys, for taking that upon yourselves and getting that handled in early August, even before schools go back. Definitely hope to utilize some of your successful strategies to help out the rest of the district. So that's really excellent.
Thank you. I actually have one other tip of something I was kind of thinking about doing is, we're going to be out doing show and sells pretty soon for popcorn. And I feel like that's going to show the public like scouting is still going on and we're fundraising and things like that. So I'm going to have applications at the booths as well,
Most
so that
definitely.
we can hand them out to people maybe that have kids that are interested in things like that. So that'll be another one that we're doing. So
an excellent idea. Well, with that, like I said, this is a very kind of open meeting. So not necessarily plan like down to the T with the district agenda by any means, but do you want to have some time for anyone who's on the Zoom call to ask any questions you have about the recruitment plan, fall activities, anything like that. Also want to welcome anyone from the district committee. Both Art and Kevin, our district chairs, are here, and Ed is at our district communications person is here as well. Anything that you guys want to add into the discussion, obviously please feel free, but this is kind of the open section of our meeting. So if anyone has any questions or concerns or just a couple ideas they want to share, the floor is yours.
Maybe Julie can give us some idea what the school district's doing. She works with the school district.
Yes, that would be very, very helpful information to have.
What kind of information are you looking for in particular?
I guess one thing that I would want to know from the district level, what would be really helpful, especially for these in-person nights, is if we would be able to actually host them on school property, utilizing the bus lines in the carpool area. That's because, one, it's an area that these families are already familiar with, and so it's not asking them to drive to a new location they may not know where it is, and so might not want to worry about getting lost. But also just because those parking lots are set up in an ideal way to funnel people through, have an entrance and an exit, so we can have them drive by a couple tents, make sure every unit gets represented. Do you think that's something that school principals or the school district will allow?
Given what's going on right now, I think we'd need to check with the superintendent first.
Mm-hmm.
If he's okay with it, then we'll have to check with the individual principal. So if you can kind of write up what you have in mind, so I can give him something in writing.
Definitely.
You can send it to me. I'm just webmaster at kcsdschools.net.
Okay.
Okay, or my district or my troop email. That's fine too. My personal, but just send me something and I can get it to Dr. Robbins and see if that's. I just don't know. I mean, we're still trying to figure out how we're doing our, how we're handling keeping our employees safe and minimizing contact. So, if for some reason they say no, it's certainly not against scouting, but it will be.
Yeah, definitely. Of course, you want to make sure that safety comes first in everything that we do for everyone that we're involved with.
Absolutely. But I'll be glad to pass that on and see what we can find out.
Yes,
Julie, if I can tag on, I had asked Mary Ann Bird if she would consider, or asked Dr. Robbins if he would consider a robocall. I know they do it for like the rec department, and I know they want to be really careful who they'll allow that for. So, but I haven't heard a response back to that. So that I think it's kind of related to the original
I'll
question.
follow up on that.
Yeah, if you would, it would obviously be really helpful if we could be allowed to do that.
Julie, a quick question to add on to that, which you may have just answered with, like the school's focus on keeping their employees safe. But like I was saying before, I'd be 100% shocked and surprised if like schools were to allow us, like go, classroom to classroom and talk about. I'm sure they're probably like minimizing as many outdoor visitors as possible. But do you have an idea on whether or not we'd be able to, drop off, like actual hard copy flyers at schools to be passed out, or will it be completely virtual through Peach Jar?
I think if I remember correctly, if you pay for the online flyers, they will also allow you to do the paper flyers, but you have to pay for the online flyers in order to do the paper.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And we're looking at about 50% of our students back physically and the other 50% virtually. So our numbers at our schools are going to be much smaller in, at least for the first 4.5 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right in our kind of our recruitment timeline. So that's very good to know. But yeah, it's just like, those are details that I like to be on top of, this because every school district is the same. Like I also cover Lexington, Richland School District 5, and they're not necessarily against scout recruitment at schools, but they don't allow it because they, like, in their eyes, if they allow one organization to recruit on their schools, they have to allow every other organization to do it. And so they are unwilling to have, hard copy flyers in schools, unwilling to have, class talks, even in years where we don't have a pandemic, won't allow yard signs on school property, just things like that. And so I know that, Kershaw County School District is a little bit different, and has different rules and regulations, things like that. But, it's good information for me to keep on top of, just so I know, what I'm able to do and what units are able to do. And that way, we don't anger anyone at the school district, because we want to maintain a strong partnership and connection with them.
Even the yard signs at the locations, I think, if, for example, Littleton Street Methodist Church, I would imagine would be glad to have a yard sign for recruitment in front of there. I would think most of the units where they meet, that might be an alternative to having them in front of the schools. But I'll check on all those parameters and see what we can do.
The ideal way would be to promote in front of both our schools and our charter partners, and also like major, like passerby hubs, like business centers, things like that. We are operating with a little bit more limited supply of yard signs this year in comparison to years past. So definitely, if you want to get yard signs for your unit, please contact me with about how many you're looking to get. That way we can confirm how many you're actually able to take and how many are available. Because we do want to make sure that, all the yard signs we have are for our entire council. And so while we want all of our units to be able to utilize them to their most effective nature, we do have a limited supply. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're coming by the office to pick up any yard signs. Just throwing it out there.
And I see Christina had a question about Peach Jar, and just to explain how that works, wanting the scouts to be able to distribute flyers for free, if I understand what that's Christina's question. The district can use Peach Jar for free to advertise our own events, but the condition is that any event that has any financial charge to families the the organization has to pay Peach Jar to use the flyers. And we are not allowed to distribute any flyers physically if it doesn't go through Peach Jar. That's part of the agreement that Peach Jar lets the districts use it for free for all, because we use it all the time for our own events, but we are not allowed to distribute any paper flyers for any organization. And anything that charges goes through Peach Jar.
Julie, what would the
Churches,
charge be? What would the Peach Jar
it's,
charge be?
I want to say it's on their website if you go onto the district address /Peach Jar and look, but I think it's maybe around $25 per site. It's not huge. And we had even talked about at one time, but it adds up. If you were trying to do all 11 elementary schools times 25, it adds up. That runs your flyer for a month, $25 per school per month. So you could run it for four weeks, and it'll push it, but the parents will get it, and you know how many were picked up. But you could get, Domino's Pizza to sponsor, not put coupons on it, but you could have, so-and-so or the Putnam family donated this, flyer or something, so there are ways that you could pay for that, but you have to have an account and set that up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Lindsay, I just saw your question about kind of an example of what those yard signs look like. And unfortunately, I don't have one with me. I was just online looking through the brand center to try and find to see if it was on there. Unfortunately, it's not. However, what I can do is that when I send out my email tomorrow morning, I can ask whoever's at the office to send me a photo of the yard signs we have and include that as well, just kind of give you an idea of what they're looking like. But essentially, if I can just hopefully describe it in a way that kind of gives you a little bit of an image with it. The yard sign is basically 2 feet by 1 foot, or maybe 1.5 feet by 1 foot. Has a large white space right kind of in the middle for writing down where a meeting is happening, or a link to be a scout, things like that. And then on top kind of just has it's blue and gold. It's just Cub Scouts, be a scout, and a couple drawings of essentially activities kind of deal. So
Michael, I actually sent you a picture that I took with my phone of 303's sign. I sent it to Scotty as well, but then I deleted it from my phone, so I'm off the hook with this. But if you look through your text messages, you might find a copy of it to send to Lindsay.
All right. I'll do that right now. Excuse me while I'm on my phone, everybody. You said that was a message sent to both Scotty and I, Kevin?
I think it was sent to both of you. Yeah, it might have also included Art.
Okay.
But then I promptly deleted it. I have memory problems on my phone. I have to delete large files. While you look for that, I had text message several of you, certainly not everybody on this call. Ed, you have a copy of this that I just texted. It's a copy of a really excellent article that was posted on Facebook. So there's no way to send it through email. At least I haven't figured it out. Ed, you might be able to figure it out. But it's way too lengthy for us to go over tonight. But it's by a gentleman at the National BSA Alumni Association, and he just writes, I thought, a extremely well-worded response to the lawsuit, the bankruptcy, and just all the general bad news and bad publicity that we're experiencing right now. I highly recommend that everybody take the opportunity to read it and distribute it. Again, it's on Facebook. Somebody posted it to the Indian Waters Facebook page. There are just some really great thoughts and bullet points that we could respond to individually. We're all bound to get questions or pushback from some of the families that we're recruiting in response, again, to all this bad news. And I feel like this article just does a great job of highlighting the good things that not only exist in scouting today, but have always existed in scouting and exist today because they've always existed. And, because of the investment that we've put in generations of young people that we actually have some pretty okay, not so young people in the world today as a result of that scouting experience. And so I would encourage you to distribute it. I think it's a breath of fresh air in a pretty dark time, and reminds us all why we still do this. And I think it could help some of those parents that might be cautious or on the fence about bringing their kids into the program. And so I highly recommend you take the time to read it. It's not a short article, but it's very well worth the time you'll put into it.
A quick note, I can't find the picture that Kevin sent me. So
Scotty will find it.
I actually have a photo. If I don't know how you can change the settings because it won't let me share anything on here, but I do have a photo on my phone that I could share if I have the options on here to do so.
I'm trying to figure out a way to allow you to share your screen. Greg, I see that you raised your hand. Do you have a question or a point to add while we're figuring that out?
A question. The question I have is with beascout.com, when they have to pay their fees, is it a prorated fee or is it a full year's fee?
It is a prorated fee from now to the end of the year. So, or not, excuse me, not to the end of the year, but until your unit recharters. So you would not, the full year is now up to $66 per year, but new families would not pay all 66 right now. They would pay whatever. Kevin, I see you opening and closing your mouth.
Well, I was going to ask, does that just include the council or the national fees? Would not include any local fees, assuming that a local unit had some local fees associated. Is that correct?
Yes. So the fee that we're charging, for these applications when we take them is the national fee, which is $66 per year, along with the prorated insurance fee, which is the council insurance, which is, again, $1 per month, $12 per year. So if we start recruiting in September, they would pay $4 of that $12 to get them through the end of the year when the unit recharters, along with whatever the prorated fee was out of the 66 per year. And then also on top of that, the $25 one-time joining fee for any new families that have never been involved in scouting before. And Greg, I see that your hand is still raised. So do you have a follow-up question or?
Sorry, still
Okay.
learning Zoom.
No worry, I got you.
Aren't we all?
Okay, so June just sent me a picture. So let me just quickly email that to myself and then I can share that screen. Oh, June, this is perfect.
A question for Julie while you're trying to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing a lot of the people who are going virtual and they're going to be doing virtual at home, how do we contact them, the ones that are virtual? Is there any way to do that, or is that?
Each jar is going to probably be the best way that, or, if it works out that you can use the calling system, because the parents will still be connected in the same way that, all the parents would be. So that's the best way that I could think of. I don't know if there are any recruiting videos that you could actually have the flyer with a QR code or a link to a video. That might be something as well. But, I know you talked about the morning shows. A lot of our schools don't have morning shows like they used to. They have more like a YouTube video. So that may or may not be something they could share that way.
Thank you.
Is everyone able to see kind of this example of what a yard sign that we're giving out looks like? So like I said, join Cub Scouts, a couple of just quick images of hiking, fishing, camping, forest, lots of white space for units, put their information, again, exactly like they have here. I can't tell if, or I guess this is two signs here, kind of like just two different examples, or maybe this is just like an extended sign that they took two signs and taped them together. But yeah, so that's kind of like the basic one looks like. We are also ordering new ones, which will have a link to Be a Scout on there as well. So that way we can, just quickly point parents, and even if they're just driving by in a school line, they can like see, like join scouts, be a scout, like go online and get everything figured out there. So our units will have, or our new yard signs will have that. These are yard signs from last year. And so we still have plenty of these, and then we'll have about between 200 and 300 of the new signs with the Be a Scout link on there as well.
So, Michael, when are those signs going to be available?
So these signs, like I said, so like the signs that June just sent me here, those are currently at the office in a limited amount. Some units kept their signs from last year and give them back to the council office like we asked. So we do have some of those available at the council office right now. We also have about, I want to say we have either 100 or 200 of the new signs that have the Be a Scout pin available at the office right now as well. And again, we are dealing with a more limited amount than in years past, so we aren't able to give out like 15 per unit by any means, but like between 4, 6, 8 per unit, somewhere around there, it will probably be okay. Just make sure you email me ahead of time before you come to the office to pick them up. That way I can just approve the amount that you want to take and make sure that's okay with the supply that we currently have at the office. I don't want to promise anyone 10 signs when we have 4.
So I hate to almost say this because I don't want them to all disappear, but I did come across a few extra ones in my Cub Hut. So Julie, if Troop 303 would like some, I have a few extra I can give you. But like I said, I'd have to go in and count to actually see how many we have, to see if I have more that I could actually give out. I'm not sure if I can say yes on that or not.
Thank you. We'll be interested.
Can we use those signs for the popcorn sales? Is that okay? Hello?
We can pretty much use those signs for anything, I guess. I mean, I was actually also just thinking that we can put them out during our meeting nights out in front of the church, so that when people drive by and they see kids in the parking lot in their own small groups with masks on doing activities, they know what we are and what we're doing. So might do that.
I wonder if we could write on them with dry erase pens, if they would show up and we could reuse them.
I will say on the dry erase marker front, that tends it's very easy to erase and just wipe off with a Kleenex wipe or anything like that to be able to reuse those signs. However, that also works the opposite way, in that if you have those signs out when it's raining, the ink does not exactly stay on there very well if it gets wet. So I would recommend
exactly
when you're writing on them, if you use, you can use dry erase markers, but I would recommend using kind of a thick tipped Sharpie instead. That way you can make sure that actually stays on there forever. And I think you can still wipe off Sharpie. It will obviously take a lot more effort, but I think it will still. And June, I know I was kind of cutting you off there a little bit, so I apologize. But if you have any advice you want to give, since obviously you wrote those beautiful signs, please feel free to share.
So when I filled out those signs, I used Windex to clean off the previously written on. They were written in Sharpie. And Windex took it off, but you got to be careful because the blue and the yellow will come off with it. So just make sure. But I tried dry erase, and it just would not stay, even to flip it over to write on the back of the signs. So, but that's what I did, and it worked real good. And I was really afraid that permanent marker wasn't going to come off, but the few times I made mistakes and stuff, I just sprayed it down with the ammonia-free Windex, and it came right off.
Excellent. I wonder if you could get a really thin whiteboard magnet and put it on either side so that they stick together, and then from the dollar store.
That could probably work. I mean, this is these signs are made out of plastic, so it's not a super durable material by any means, but it can hold some weight to it. So long as it's a thin enough plastic whiteboard like you're talking about, you probably could make that work. We also have had both the council level and units have actually printed out something on paper and then just covered that with tape, just clear plastic tape, so that you can still see it, but it stays up there pretty well. again, the only issue there is that taking tape off these plastic signs is a very difficult and arduous process without like destroying the sign in its entirety. So kind of like once you tape something on there, I hope you don't plan to utilize that sign for anything else. But there is a way to take off the tape without damaging the sign. It's going to take you minimum 20 minutes to take one side of that off. So would encourage you to use an alternate method rather than taping something on there, but it is available to you if you want to do that. And I don't want to stop a good discussion by any means. I just want to make everyone aware that we are currently at 7:40, so we're a little over an hour for this roundtable district committee meeting. And so I don't want anyone to feel that we are taking up their entire evening. But please, if you have questions that you want answered right now, please feel free to continue to ask them. Again, I just don't want to take up anyone's evening more than we already have. And also, please know that I am always available via phone call or email for any questions you may have offline about whether it's recruitment, ball activities, anything like that. I'm available for all of my units. I want to make sure that all of you guys feel that your questions are being answered. So please feel free to contact me at any time if you don't want to ask a question now, or if you find out that you have questions later.
I have a quick question, kind of off topic, but have you heard anything more on the Cubrees this year, if those are still in the works, or if that's something that's going to be adjusted because of COVID?
So Cubrees are still, to my knowledge, I think they're still a little up in the air, just because most of our Cubrees were planned for September. And right now, the events that we would have, out at Barstow for, the council-wide events, the earliest one we would have would be in October. And we're currently not planning on having any events before that. Again, that could change just because of, we're getting new information every day on, COVID-19 regulations and, how soon a vaccine may become available and widespread and everything. So right now, I believe Cubrees will probably not happen this year, since I don't know if we'll have any council or district-wide activities aside from these recruitment nights in September. I do want to check up on that. I don't want you to take what I just said as the 100% official truth, because I don't believe it is. I will check up on that, but I have not heard anything about promoting or planning Cubrees in any style in quite some time. So not 100% sure about it, but I don't believe they're planned to happen as of right now.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if no one has any more questions, I will move that we adjourn for the evening. Again, I want to say thank you to everyone for taking time out of their evening to be on our roundtables. It's always really nice to have as many people as possible on these Zoom calls and our in-person roundtables as well, just to make sure that we're having a really good discussion, a good exchange of ideas from a lot of different viewpoints. So I do want to say thank you to everyone here for taking time out of their evening to be here, and hopefully in roundtables that we'll have in the future, we can have just as much of a good turnout as possible. Do also want to remind everyone that this will be our last roundtable that's kind of on a different night than normal. Starting in September, we will be back to our typical district committee meeting / partial roundtable, depending on what Scotty's schedule is for roundtable, on the first Thursday of every month. So our next roundtable will be first Thursday, which is probably about 2 weeks from now. So it will be kind of a short turnaround time, but it'll be good. It's kind of good to have that little short break just so that we can start developing ideas ourselves, as well as have more information available to all of our units when we really got to hit the ground running with getting signs up around town, getting these promotions started. So it'll be good to have a slight break, but then get right back to it as soon as possible. So I hope you guys all have a good rest of your evening, and if you have any questions, any concerns, anything like that, please feel free to shoot me an email, give me a call. Everything we covered tonight will be sent out an email tomorrow morning, so be on the lookout for that. And with that, hope everyone has a nice, pleasant evening.
Thanks,
Thank you all for
everybody.
being there. Take care.